Yes, my name is Keenan Wallace Dunham. I'm running for president of the United States for 2016 in the Libertarian Party.
Very cool, man. I've been looking over your pages. You're an interesting guy. Got a lot going on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Keenan Wallace Dunham or Dunham?
Yes.
I guess however you put the emphasis.
Either
on
one.
And you're running for president 2016 under the Libertarian Party or Independent Party?
Libertarian Party.
Libertarian. Excellent. How old are you?
I'm 33 right now.
Okay.
And I'll be 35 July 16th, 2016.
To meet all the requirements?
I've checked with the Federal Election Commission and the South Carolina Election Commission, and as long as I'm 35 before November 8th, 2016, I can run. So they both said that it was fine. So I can go ahead and run.
Know your laws, I guess, right? Know your Constitution.
Sure. Definitely.
So I've just been getting my information from the Independent Political Report. It looks like you have a full bio on there. So anybody that wants to read your full bio can go to the independentpoliticalreport.com and find your name, Keenan Wallace Dunham, and they will find all about you. A self-described Mensa IQ genius scientist.
No, they say self-described. I've had Mensa membership since I was a child. In 5th grade, I qualified for Mensa with an IQ test of 145 and then got into Mensa since I was a child. But my focus of my campaign is my issues, and I just want to be an activist for these specific issues like legalization of marijuana, ending the federal income tax, focus on those points and try to campaign for those things. So it's not about me. I'm not trying to push my ego onto everyone else. I'm running on those specific issues and just want to get those accomplished. Whether I'm running for president or not, I would be working on those as an activist. So,
when did this come around, the actual decision to run for president?
Yeah, in 2012, I just really felt that neither one of them really wanted to be president, and there's just not a lot of passion in it right now. And I've got so much passion for my 5 main points, and I just want to get those accomplished. There's so much that America can do right now. The potential with science and industry and new sciences is huge right now. We just need to start tapping it. There are also green industries and healthy industries like cannabis and green energy are both very healthy for ourselves, for medicine and the environment. And tapping those, we're going to be able to create a revolution in the United States again.
But where did this come from? So 2012, you were, 28, 29 years old. I assume you had already finished your studies, your education. What field were you working in?
Yeah, well, I was doing accounting for a small company, bookkeeping, which I've been doing for more than 10 years.
Okay, so you were out of school, working in the corporate America, watching the political campaigns on TV, and just kind of thought to yourself, I think I can do a better job.
No, I worked in politics before. I worked on Dennis Kucinich's campaign for president in 2004. That was in Chicago, and I met Barack Obama there while he was running for senator.
Ooh.
So I've studied politics before, and for a long time, and always studied politics, all the various parts of the United States and fields. In 2012, I just really felt like I was not pleased with what was going on. I felt betrayed by the Democratic Party. I was a Democrat myself. I just felt like we're not getting any service from Washington at all. There's no plan of Washington for the whole of the country. Yeah, I really felt I could do a lot better job.
Yeah, I mean, I remember pretty clearly when I was about that age. I went to Mexico. I wasn't thinking really about politics. I wasn't thinking about politics in any sense of the way of me personally getting involved. Have you always been a fairly active person from an activist standpoint, or just a very involved individual?
I always loved studying people, and I started my studies in sciences and in computer science and engineering, but I really wanted to be involved with people. I studied psychology and got my bachelor's and started my master's in psychology, but I always found helping people and activism to be much more important to me. And also, I like doing charity work. I've done charity work since I was a kid for 20 plus years and helping people whenever I can. And I would do that no matter what, helping people personal level, doing activist work, and then running for office all goes hand in hand. I want to serve the United States, and I think that that's the way all politicians should approach politics and office.
Are you thinking of yourself as a politician? Is that how you view yourself at this point?
More as an activist, definitely. And even that, I found activism more engaging, so I like to have my time and do that, and not. I would have been a teacher. I got on a waiting list for PhD at Northwestern.
Nice.
And I would have gotten my PhD and done teaching and psychology.
Very nice.
But that's on the back burner. It might happen again later.
Right, and I'm sure you're already putting a lot of that education that you did learn, even though it wasn't a completed degree, probably into use already. Where did you grow up?
Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, pretty much all my life.
Okay.
Except when I was in college.
And where are you at now? What part of the country?
That's where I'm at.
Okay,
right.
So you've stayed in the same location pretty much your whole life.
I lived in Chicago and New Orleans during college.
I've never been to that part of the country, so I'm not real familiar with it.
Okay.
Have you ever been to Colorado?
I applied to University of Colorado Boulder, and that was for psychology. I thought about going there for a PhD.
Yeah, if you ever think about coming out to Denver in the pursuit of your presidential aspirations, please let me know.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, Denver is really a happening place. Colorado's a happening place, but I think it's a very fertile ground for the type of politics I think you're wanting to pursue.
Oh, yes.
What is your main 5 points? You referenced it at the beginning. Why don't you go ahead and lay it out there? You said you had 5, sure. I guess, key points that you're running on. What are they?
Yes, I think it's important to have not just issues or ideologies, but an actual plan. And I've got 5 plans that I think can grow the country immensely, put us on the right track, and project what we're going to do for the next 20 years in a really huge industrial manner. Those are, firstly, restore civil liberties, which we need to get rid of the Patriot Act. I don't think the Patriot Act is legal anyway. Any point of the Patriot Act, you can argue the Constitution supersedes it. They never did a constitutional amendment, so the Patriot Act, I think, is illegal anyway. I think we need to get rid of the Patriot Act, get rid of Homeland Security Department, stop all warrantless searches, and stop all mass surveillance, and put things back in line. So that's my first point. I have a really interwoven industrial plan where we can get rid of these trillions of dollars of debt and then go to another plateau of the United States. I think the main way we need to do that is with green energy, because the base that fuels the country are the resources. The land is fertile. We have lots of resources. And we need to grow the base of the dollar, what the dollar is worth. We're not going to get rid of oil instantly, but I think we need to increase it using diversification into green energy. So I want to build up green energy. I want to legalize cannabis 100% for medicine and for recreational smoking. I think we understand the science behind it, that it's needed for medicine, and I would put a 21-year and older age on recreational smoking. And then I want to eliminate the personal income tax at the federal level and shift over to a 9% non-food and non-baby item sales tax. So it would be non-essential items, and we would gather that tax on all the various things people buy, like entertainment and clothes and shopping and, all the business that goes on in the United States. And that's going to generate enough taxes and also fairly tax corporations on their profit at a place where they can't really hide it either. So I think we need to get rid of the personal income tax, take that burden off the American people and put it into a sales tax, simplifies taxes as well. And that I would enact the 9% tax on cannabis, recreational smoking, and various food products for hemp at the same time. So I want to I'm going to legalize cannabis and generate the revenue at the same time.
Very nice.
And then the 5th part of my plan is the most exciting one for me and my favorite one to work on, which is a projection of space colonization for the next 20 and 50 years. And I don't know if you saw my YouTube videos.
I've been briefly
but I have
looking over them.
For space colonization, where we need to put a base on the moon, a base on Mars, and the ideas and sciences that go into that are very profound. We need to be able to use the resources in space to both fuel the projects and to generate a resource and a revenue for NASA, keep NASA funding itself. Because all of that's available right now, but we don't do it. We shut down the shuttle program and we're gutting NASA, but NASA can pay for itself. We need to have robots mining metals in space, asteroids and meteors, and the moon, or any moons or planets out there. We need to mine gases, look for oil, have solar energy in space. And we also need to look into building greenhouses on the moon so that we can have a base that sustains itself. And I'm very interested in greenhouses for Earth and the moon because greenhouses can grow food year-round. We need to do projects and this is where, I'm a libertarian. I don't believe in just giving money out to other countries in aid packages indefinitely, because that's not a plan. Once you give a country $1 billion in aid, they're going to request year in and year out. They're going to want that the next year. What we need to do is build them greenhouses, get them self-sufficient in their needs, what's going on with their needs. Mm-hmm. So I want to look into building multi-story greenhouses that make countries self-sufficient, save on land use, give the empowerment and the power to the local people that they can feed themselves and work in those same farms that they co-own. And I think that's very important.
Very cool. And all of these things you're talking about can be found on your YouTube page, Keenan Wallace Dunham for President 2016. Find it on YouTube. I see you have little, 5 to 10 minute more or less videos on more or less each one of those topics that you've just mentioned, each one of those issues. One of the reasons I like libertarians is because they kind of take the best of all worlds. It's very hard to become one-sided when you're taking the best things from all sides. And pretty much everything you've mentioned, it's hard to argue with, right? It's hard to argue with a lot of these kind of overall ideals of how the world should be. But let's talk about the reality of the situation. Is that the viewpoint you're coming from sounds like very much how can we make society, the world, a better place based on ideals of how we should be behaving as human beings. My theory is that's not really what people in politics are trying to accomplish.
Right.
I don't really believe people in politics are trying to accomplish what you're setting out to accomplish. So the big question is, how do you actually break through the rhetoric? Because there's going to be people on all sides who are going to talk about, taxes, and they're going to talk about the environment, and they're going to talk about how society should be better based on, very idealistic type behaviors that we should be involved in. But how do you actually break past that to have your message heard in the first place? Because that's probably going to be the biggest challenge that you're going to be facing, is how do you even get people to hear who you are and that you exist? How do you make yourself different from everybody else who's going to be using similar language, if you kind of see what I'm grabbing onto there with the rhetoric of politics?
Well, I think my strategy is I'm working with also the U.S. Parliament group, which is usparliament.org. And I want to go ahead and say my website, too, because I will be up. Dunham2016.com is my campaign website. But U.S. Parliament Group is a project for unity in politics where anybody from any party can join, and they organize using proportional voting on issues and plans for the group. Whereas they're going to vote for an issue, and then everything is included on the vote, and you order everything via a number that's going to represent everything that was voted on, like 1 through 50. If you have 50 issues, then you rate them. Everything will end up in the results. It's not just whatever is best you're going to do. You're going to rank everything, and that encourages unity in politics. What my plan to differentiate myself is actually to work with as many people as possible. And with this unity group, I also have started a candidate coalition where any candidate can join my network, and I want to have this network going where we educate people on how to run for politics, so we can get people who've never ran for politics running. I want to educate and share resources. So actually, I want to work with as many candidates as I can. And the way to get politics motivated and to revitalize Washington is to work with as many of those candidates as I can. I want other people to run for office and run for president. In the Parliament group, there's more than 20 presidential candidates who plan to run for 2016, and I'm working with them. People like James Ogle, Dorothy Collins, Joy Whitmire, and also Andy Caffrey and Scott Olewine. They're all going to run for president, and we're in this group together. And what we're going to do is we're all going to seek the nominations in our various parties. We're from all the parties, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Green, and we're going to seek those nominations. When one of us gets a nomination, our entire group will back that person, regardless of party.
Nice.
So we are going to try to revolutionize politics based on working together. And then the easy way anybody can work together with my campaign is I've got these 5 points. And like you're saying, everybody's going to be talking about taxes. Well, I'm not worried about my specific way to do a fair tax or to simplify taxes. I want to just put my idea out there and let anybody come in and cooperate and work together on that, because, that's what's been going on the last 6 years. Republicans and Democrats cannot work together, and they have accomplished nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been throwing Barack Obama under the bus. He's not accomplished anything, so it makes him look bad. But the Republicans have done everything to stop him and throw him under the bus and never get anything passed. And that's why we've seen the government shut down multiple times.
Right.
That should never happen, and that's because people are not working together.
Right.
I just want to put my 5 ideas out there, and then anybody can pursue them on their own or work with me as an activist. And it makes my campaign very malleable, and it can separate, and all those things can be worked on. And any accomplishment, like a little bit of legalization of cannabis, is an accomplishment for me in any state. So
I really like the idea of the coalition between the other parties and others running for president, having a little pact of your own that once one individual gains some traction, you all support that individual. It's really an uphill battle, and I don't think anybody is, disillusioned by the fact that there's close to $1 billion that the Koch brothers are putting out there, not including the other 2 main parties and their own money. Right. So let's just briefly touch on the money situation. What's your current status? Sure. How much do you need? Is there even a possibility of even raising enough money to really have a national presence? And what is the guerrilla style tactics that you're going to use? Because I'm going to take the assumption for you that you're not going to be able to raise $1 billion, right? I
don't want $1 billion. I don't accept corporate donations. So we're going to have to go a different route. But the Libertarian Party is making waves, and we're probably going to be able to get into the presidential debates on national television this time, because we can't be barred as a third party from them. So that's one thing. We need to work on getting into debates and getting on television. Obviously, I'm doing interviews. I'm starting earlier. No one else has declared that they're running for president. I actually started August of 2013 when I did my first interview, and I'm building up steam. I want to work with as many people as possible and accomplish my activism points the entire time. 2014 was great because we legalized cannabis in more states. So it's definitely working. I just want to work on all the activist issues at the 24/7 all the time, and be making progress on those, as well as growing my campaign.
How much money?
The network, the Unity Project, and the network are parts of that too.
How much money is anticipated on your end to just maintain the basics of a campaign? What is the necessity of funds you're going to need?
We're only accepting personal donations of $2,500 maximum from individuals. We'll use that to run the campaign and to do advertising. I'm not going to look into getting huge commercials, but we may get airtime in some cities on the radio. But I'll do interviews and I'll travel. We'll do everything that we can, because I'm not going to accept corporate donations. And really, Barack Obama did accept corporate donations, but he was able to get a lot of individual contributions. So it's not impossible for me to do the same thing.
Right. Is there a number you're looking for, like 5 million or 3 million, to know that you're going to get your foot in the door?
Not really. I mean, it's over the next 2 years. I wouldn't really want to estimate that right now anyway.
Okay. What is the support that you need? Do you have a campaign manager? Do you have an office of cold callers, calling people? Do you have mailers? What is the actual infrastructure of running for president?
You definitely need all that. And I've got a campaign manager and more than 20 volunteers. And we're going to keep growing. I'm going to get more campaign staff. More people are showing their interest all the time. I want to teach as much as I, get help. I want to teach people how to do these things themselves, do the activist points, work with many organizations. I want to work with other organizations. And my network is growing all the time. It's fantastic, the response that I've gotten in the past year. It's a lot of fun.
What is the actual process to run for president? Do you have to file an application? Do you need to submit a letter to somebody? What is the technical part of running for president?
As soon as you start campaigning, as long as you're going to be 35 by the general election day, November 8th, 2016 for me, and you were born in the United States and reside in the United States, then you're good to go. You just start campaigning. And after you have received $5,000 in donations, by that time, you have to apply with the FEC and register your campaign with them with a small amount of paperwork. And that's basically it. Then there's the rules, campaign finance, that you can't accept a certain amount of donations from one person for your campaign, but they have expanded PACs and super PACs so much that you can have some third-party organization gathering as much money from any corporation or person that you want, and then they can run ads for you. So it's ridiculous, really. They put so much money in politics, but that's not what it's about. That's not going to help the country. And I don't really agree with that entire Washington insider way of doing things, because it's a false industry. It's making it all about money, obviously, and then you got the personal interest of the Koch Industries, which is about oil. They want to preserve oil, and they even downplay green energy, saying it's not real, So basically, we need to get money out of politics and make things fair. We need to get public financing at some base for all candidates. Everybody can get advertising, and there's only so much advertising you can do. It's not about who gets the best ad. If you're a shallow candidate, there's no point to that candidate. If they get a Super Bowl ad, but they have no plan, they have no passion for the country, they don't care about the regular citizens, the soldiers, the veterans, the sick, the helpless.
Right.
It's about service to the country, that you want to serve the United States.
Right. When you hit that 5,000 donation, you register, will that open you up to public money?
Yes. Oh, well, there's matching to a certain amount, but it's not automatic. It matches a certain amount of the donations you've gotten so far.
Right. There's a certain percentage of people you have to have. But that's definitely fuel to the fire. I mean, if you can hit that mark, that's not going to hurt.
That's only after you've gotten a certain amount of donations from many states. It has to be a certain number of states all contributed to the campaign.
Have you considered any risk or danger in what you're doing?
Certainly not, no.
Okay. I mean, I would assume there's not much risk or danger at this point, but let's hypothetically jump forward and say that there's a big snowball effect, and you're pushed to the front of the line, and maybe there is a possibility that an outsider is going to be hired in. All these big corporations we're talking about with all the vested interests, do you think there's ever a time when you need to be concerned with your own safety as a result of your own political movement, strength that's accumulating?
No, I'm just running an activist campaign with, points that are the truth. They're going to be the truth no matter what. And people can, pick them up freely and do them themselves. Any of these points, you can campaign, and I encourage people to campaign locally for propositions to eliminate state income taxes, to restore civil liberties in their own communities. A county or a city can say, we ratified the Constitution of the United States, and we're going to go by that. No NSA intrusion. That's happened in Texas. People are free to do whatever they want. I'm not doing anything that no one else can do. I'm doing the same thing everybody else can do. So no, I don't see any danger in that.
Right. Very good. I mean, that would be one of the things I would think of, that, those who get close to obtaining power become targets in all respects, not from a physical danger, but in all respects, credibility, right. Slander and everything else that happens, which is a natural course of political campaigns anyways, but even more so when an outsider is on the line. I mean, it's one thing when two insiders are, neck and neck for who's going to win.
Well, no, those can be pretty bad too,
Yeah, definitely.
They already are. That, with all these potential candidates, you've got plenty of mud slinging from every party, even though they're not even running. It's just it's already turning into a strange race, because there's so many potential candidates, which I've never even heard that word before this election, 2016, potential candidates, Well,
I have a theory on those who run for president with no real desire to actually be president. It's
Right.
to me, it's just about finances. If I look at a company whose stock is taking off, well, I want to throw my money into that company because the stock is on its way up. If I see that the Koch brothers are bringing $800 million to the table, and I know I have a big enough audience or my own following to throw my hat in the ring, well, maybe I don't really want to be president. Maybe I'm just looking for a buyout, right? Because, maybe I'll accept $10 million to drop out of the race. But I never really wanted to be president in the first place. I'm just simply trying to siphon money off the top because it's there.
Exactly. That's where money in politics falls in its face when the candidate has no heart in it.
Yeah.
And, I don't mind calling people out on that. I would love for people to run against me, but I'm not going to be easy on them in debate. And nobody's going to tell me that solar energy doesn't work. It's been around for 20 years. It's ridiculous.
I mean, a lot of politics I always thought was, who are you connected to? I mean, if you become president, there's many cabinet positions. There's many, probably up to the thousands of positions and roles that have to be filled that you have to fill. Is your network that big where you already are connected, or is this something that you would start interviewing people for? How would the logistics of being president actually work from an independent party standpoint?
I'm going to want to change some people in office and some people and leave some in there. And I've got my Unity Coalition that I'm working with and the Libertarian Party. But there'll be plenty of bright people in all third parties. And I don't mind working with Republicans and Democrats. I would have Republicans and Democrats. It would be a great White House that I've put together from all parties, really. Anyone who wants to embrace my ideas and is excited about them and, wants to make some progress and can even has a plan that they want to add to my campaign or add to my presidency. It's very exciting for me to work with other people. I welcome anybody's input into the campaign, and I, get people interested, involved all the time. And people have requested to be my vice president. People have requested to be in my cabinet, so yeah, that's definitely growing.
Maybe you've gotten this question before. Why are we jumping straight to president versus kind of getting the feet wet with local offices, maybe a county commissioner or a mayor or something at least to a local level that's smaller? Why are we going straight for the big kahuna?
Well, I definitely am interested in doing that as well, and I plan to do those things as well. I also plan to seek a law degree, and I have a lot of things I want to work on. This is just a step in the plan, and I'm going to keep doing it because it grows my network, and I'm getting people very interested, involved, and the 5 points are national points that aren't being done and can easily be done. It's not like I have to go out there and do it all myself. You legalize cannabis, and it's just a matter of putting the pen to the paper, and then it's free. It's out there, and it's an industry that just explodes onto the scene. I want to go ahead and do it. Also, I have a lot of writing that I've done. I've been writing for the past 10 years. I have a lot of books that I'm planning. And I want to write a book about running for president as well. And I've planned some fiction books that I'm very interested in. So I've been very prolific creatively. I've got a lot of projects down the pipeline.
You definitely have the fire in the belly, as we talk about when we're talking about entrepreneur type people and activities.
Yeah.
Where does this come from? Are your parents highly motivated, active people?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What type of background do you come from?
Yeah, my parents are great independent people who taught me a lot how to be an adult. And my grandfather, I never met him, but I really look up to him. He was in World War II, named after him. Wallace Gamewell Dunham is his name. My middle name I'm named after him. And after World War II, he came back to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and ran the family hotel, the Zinzendorf Hotel. And he also started the volunteer county fire department there and was fire commissioner for many years. So he saw a need in the society that he was living in and went ahead and applied himself. And, you could say he wasn't fire commissioner before, but he went ahead and did it. I'm a young person. I have lots of training, and I'm training all the time. And, it's not something beyond anyone's reach to be president. Just like we tell our children, we tell people to dream big, dream that you're going to be president one day. Basically, you just have the goal while you're president, and you put it into action. There's no special requirement. There are writing bills, and there's already bills in place to legalize cannabis. So I'm not going to have to reinvent the wheel. I just need to put my activist points out there, and people will latch onto them.
Right. Right, especially a lot of it is not so much the president's doing as it is Congress and vice versa. But
and I want to work with everyone, so I'm willing to work with people.
As long as you don't use the tagline, I'm a uniter, not a divider, I think you'll be good to go on that
tagline.
So, hypothetically, you become president. What's the first thing you do waking up Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning?
Oh, sure. There are political prisoners I want to free. I want to free Barrett Brown and Jeremy Hammond and give immunity to Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. I want to legalize cannabis as soon as possible, start my elimination of the personal income tax, which I want to do 25% over 4 years to zero, because I think you don't want to change the entire tax structure instantly. I want to phase that out over 4 years because I want to keep the economy stable just for anything that's unforeseen, and work on that and change the IRS over. That also stops the IRS from intruding into our lives and collecting personal data on us. That'd be great if the government did not collect financial data on individuals. That'd be great. There's no need for it.
Right. I agree with that, and I think true conservatives would agree with that point. And then on the flip side of it, you're going to have many people who support your cannabis views and wanting to free political prisoners and use the presidential powers to basically stop criminalizing non-criminals, as I put it. So you may lose people on both sides with conflicting views, but you may gain people on both sides. The hope that I see that's coming through here is to stop taking sides. That's kind of what I'm taking from this whole idea. And I think a lot of the young people that are growing up are becoming very apathetic. They just don't care anymore, and they don't care because you're forced to take a side. And it's very much the football mentality of the U.S. You're either on this team or that team, pick your team and fight to the end. But I think the younger people coming up are starting to reject that notion, and the cherry picking of the best ideas, I think, is the way it was always supposed to have been. Take the best ideas, not the best side, the best team, but the best ideas, and work with them. So I applaud your efforts, and I'll commit at least a $20 donation to your campaign.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
I'm by no means a wealthy person. I will spend $20 today without even realizing what I spent it on. So if I can do that, I know I can throw at least $20 towards individuals that I'm getting to know and getting to meet. I guess final message or point would you want at least the people listening to my show? My show is based around looking at the business side of cannabis and how cannapreneurs, how people can become entrepreneurs within this industry. What advice can you give to other people out there to stay motivated, to either support the cause or just take up their own cause? Because from my side of it, a lot of what I'm seeing is just kind of that apathy of people just don't care. They don't care, or those who care just don't care enough to take action. And it's a backward slide once you get on that type of path where everything's just I don't really care what happens one way or the other. We're screwed either way, right?
Right. That's not good.
What insights can you give me and others?
Yeah, I would say empower yourself and education is great. Take up all the education and tools in your own hands, and anything in my campaign that anyone wants to use, they're free to use. Any knowledge or resources, and there's going to be on Facebook is where the candidate coalition is. And actually, if you just want to search my name, Keenan Wallace Dunham, on Facebook, anyone can add me because I use that for my campaign. And then I can point you out to the candidate coalition where there's going to be resources on how to run for office. I want to put as many resources out there as possible. Definitely that's a great thing for the cannabis community because you need to empower yourself. And anybody can be an entrepreneur and anybody can be an activist. The way that it is in Washington is not the way it should be and is not the way it has to be. It doesn't have to be about money and power, and we're all free to take up all these issues ourselves. And I want my campaign to be a sort of light of justice, that if there's an unjust issue out there, I'll talk about it in the press. If there's, the political prisoners, political targeted group, arrested individuals that are political prisoners, I'm going to talk about them. So the change can be made if we just speak the truth. You just have to be honest. I mean, at least somebody who's apathetic stays on their own beliefs. It'd be much worse to become corrupt and go with the system as it is. There's just education and resources out there that people can look for.
Absolutely.
And I want to be a source of them.
Absolutely. Let me throw a quick 5 questions at you and just answer them off the top of your head.
Sure.
Answer them as fast as you can without thinking about them to kind of give people a general idea of who you are. Education. Do you think it should be free, subsidized, or fully private?
Absolutely free. And I have a plan to forgive all first responders, doctors, and nurses college debt that's over 5 years old. And that would be a start to my plan to make college education free. I think we need to look at increasing education where college education is free. And then we want to try to get people into higher education, PhDs, make it easier for lots of people to get masters and PhDs. And I think all college should be free.
Very good. War or the military, your general comments on how we should be using our military and what our involvement in war should be.
I want to eliminate all wars, but that takes a lot of coalition with other countries. And I study a lot of cultures and languages. I want to learn languages of other cultures. I speak fluent Japanese. I didn't go over that. I studied Japanese for more than 10 years. And you have to learn other cultures and be inclusive. So the antidote to war is acceptance. And it's just like racism and stereotypes. You have to accept other people. And in the short term, I think that we need to let regions determine themselves, like the Middle East or like Russia. We need to let those countries that are in those areas self-determine and not just butt in and say what we want them to do instantly. We need to ask them what they want to do. And if there's a party that's having trouble, then we need to ask somebody like Iraq, ask the Iraqi government what they would request from us and offer our help, not just be unilateral, cavalier, or take over an issue for our own interests. We don't need to do that. That's the way to prevent conflict in the future.
Very cool. Just out of curiosity, how did you learn Japanese? Did you live there? Just take classes? What was the...
I took 6 semesters in college in Japanese and then studied on my own and kept my textbooks, and I practiced a lot.
Very cool. I got a friend that lives in Japan, and I myself study, I practice Aikido, so I have a rudimentary vocabulary of certain things within the art of Aikido. But Japan is a good coincidence that you brought that up, because being a
Nihongo ga wakarimasu. That means I understand Japanese.
Nihongo ga wakarimasu. Ooh, that's a tongue twister. I'll have to work on that one. But being a pacifist country, Japan, they take a very firm stance on pacifism when it comes to war. That's actually one of the conflicts that's arising with this prisoner that was taken hostage. Is how should the country react to it? Because since World War II, they've had a strong and firm pacifist stance on being involved in that type of military operation. We don't need to get into that type of politics today, but the next time you come through Denver, we'll definitely sit down and we'll talk more in detail about specific politics and specific issues. Right now, let's just give people a general idea who you are. Corporations, are they people?
Absolutely not. Corporations need to be taxed. If I want to take away the income tax, and that would really free up people who work for corporations to feel that they're not tied to their corporation. Because there's an income tax, you have to worry about so much as to what your pay is and increasing your pay just so you can make up for what the government takes away from you. I think that we'll feel more free from corporations if we don't have a personal income tax at the federal level, and we'll be able to save. All of that money should be for people's free choice of what they want to save or spend on, and corporations are not going to ever control us or tell us what to do. They'll never be what they're set up to be as independent powers over us. They're not like that.
Very good. Next one, oil or petroleum. Let's say petroleum. I agree that we need to start transitioning, but it's not an overnight transition. So in the meantime, right, however long that meantime is, the question is, where do we get our oil from? Do we dig it out of our own ground, or do we still keep buying it from other people?
We need to keep our energy energy independent as possible. United States needs to remain independent. There are other options. Pipelines, I don't like long pipelines of oil. I think instead we need to refine them where they are and use trucking. I'm not saying we shouldn't get the oil where we find huge amounts of American oil. We need to use it, and we need to stay independent. But green energy is independent, and it's, as much land mass as we have. Actually, Germany is a great example of what you can do with green energy. They went solar and got past 80%. They went past 80% of their energy being green energy, and that's based on their land mass. And we're, I want to say, more than 10 times the size of Germany, maybe 30 times. And that is all space we can put green energy, wind, solar, and we need to inundate. We need to plan to inundate and do research on the numbers of what full inundation of solar energy across the country would give us. Basically, it would be too much energy to use because of the saving capacity of solar. You can't save the energy over a long period of time. So we have so much land mass we could not even use that much energy now, but possibly in the future we might need it. So we need to start building it.
Absolutely. And those Germans, they know how to build and they know how to be efficient, and
right.
they know how to have a plan for making things better. So they make good cars, they make good buildings, they make good parts. I fully believe them and back them when it comes to alternative energy. Next issue, immigration. Should our borders be open, closed, semi-open? Should we be selective about who comes in, or should it just be whoever shows up that meets a criteria, you're walking through the gates?
Right. There's certainly, you can have a wish for that, but there's also what's happening right now. And what's happening right now has to be dealt with basically like a triage issue. You have people just streaming across the border, and next summer could be, double that. It could be 1 million people coming across the border next year. What we need to do is we need to close the border. I want to close the border, and we're not limited to not using our military. I think we should just close the border. We always accept immigrants, but we don't accept other countries just coming in and taking us over. And, we have to deal with that. We have rights to our citizens. We need to close the border, and I would not deport, everybody. I would let people get work visas. And then with the work visas, basically we just need to enforce the immigration laws that we already have. We need to have picture ID on the work visa, and then a person who has a work visa cannot get all the social programs, but they can still live in the United States and work. And then I love people applying for citizenship in the United States, and everyone, anybody who wants to be a U.S. citizen should still apply and be able to become a full citizen and get all the social programs as well. That's definitely an issue that needs to be taken care of, but I would just follow the laws of immigration that are already there, which are not being.
Very cool. So many issues we could get into. I think those are the hot topics that people will most recognize and want to hear about. So the last issue is your issue. What issue did I not bring up, or what issue is burning at the tip of your tongue that you're always wanting to get out there that either I didn't bring up or that nobody else is bringing up?
Sure. I would say we went over pretty much my 5 points in my campaign, but I would encourage people to look at my YouTube videos about space colonization. And I just imagine that we can go as far as there is space, we can go there and we can start colonizing other worlds. And the science is ever growing. So you have to project. You can't just go based on what's going on right now and say that that's as far as we'll ever go. You have to project great things. And I want to do plans to harvest the sun and get hydrogen reactors, and then have star-to-star travel. I think that, any technology out there that's going to help humanity and be medically and medically and environmentally safe, that we need to seek it out. I have a huge dream for space travel and 3 videos on space colonization and also greenhousing. Multi-story greenhousing. So I'd like people to check those out if they have time.
Very cool. You might be the first presidential campaign to actually talk about living in space or exploring up and beyond space.
Yeah. That might be something that's quintessential in my campaign. I would like to be, one of the first pioneers of actually expanding colonizations into space. That's very important to me.
So Elon Musk, hero to you, and the Virgin guy, who's the guy that Virgin Galactic?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I want to work with as many people as possible. possible in corporations. That's where corporations can help. We need to commercialize space. We need to allow, corporations to do vacations in space and have, businesses that mine out in space. And there's going to be, just laws according to that as well, fairness laws, and also non-destruction of environment or people laws for that as well. But we can work on that, make those things fair and just.
Nice. Finally, a presidential candidate who is not a lawyer, not a financial investor or a CEO of a finance company or a bank, but somebody looking at it from a science background. So obviously the question everybody's going to want to know, which side are you on, Star Wars or Star Trek?
Oh, geez. Well, I'm looking forward to the next Star Wars coming out, but I love Star Trek as well, both. I might write my own novel series on space travel. I definitely could at this point.
Yeah, I like that you're a writer also. That's very interesting.
Oh, I love to write, yeah.
Yeah.
I can actually tell you a little bit about one of my projects that I'm working on. I have a fantasy series that I want to develop. Basically involves spiritual element, ghosts, and paranormal. So that's one thing that I'm working on.
So get ready for all the negative campaigns about the kookiness and the wax coming out. But it should be fun because, I just saw a little article that came across one of those feeds the other day on Facebook about NASA preparing us for extraterrestrial contact. I think we're getting closer and closer to a moment where science and science fiction, politics and reality just might all blend together, and we might become the future that we've always seen on TV and movies.
Well, I think really interesting about Star Trek, if you look at Star Trek, pretty much it can apply directly to us right now if you just change it to what they actually were doing in Star Trek, which is colonization. That vessel, the Enterprise, was basically a forward exploration vessel, like a scout for space colonization from planet to planet, solar system to solar system. We need to accomplish everything. And actually, I would say that my favorite is Star Trek because that's closer to reality. We need to start colonizing space just like in Star Trek. What they were really doing, the masses of people, billions of people in that show.
Yes. Or as I've always told people, our future is going to look more like Futurama than anything else. Because that's where I think we're going, to that type of future, where we're going to be mutants and crossbreeds and everything else in between, from talking robots to talking animals. It's all coming in our near future. Maybe not our life, but definitely within our life in the bigger sense of just a few years away.
Yeah.
Hey, man, this has been really interesting. And like I said, we could keep going. So we will keep going, just on a different date.
Great.
Next time you get a free moment, let's do it again. A few months closer into your campaign, a few months down the line. If when you come through Denver, we'll hook up, we'll do some interviews, and we'll just keep digging in. We'll keep digging into all these issues so I can give you the chance to, thoroughly get out fully articulated ideas at length to each one of these issues. There's nothing more I hate than somebody having to do an interview where they're cut to a 30-second or a 2-minute type soundbite or a clip where you're just not really able to express yourself. So I try to make my interviews long form, but sometimes we have to break it up. If you believe it or not, we've already hit an hour, and I think that's a good start. I think that's a good start for people to get an idea of who you are, and then we'll follow up again in a few months and see where you're at.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right.
Sounds good. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's show. Make sure to come back next week. We're going to have more guests lined up, speaking with dispensary owners, growers, business owners. Make sure to follow us on all of the social media, Facebook, Google+. You can listen to our shows live from the website or your preferred listening platform. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spreaker, even YouTube, all under the same name, CannabisCommunityProject.com. We'll see you next week.